I really haven't given this as because I noticed so here, I refer to myself as Kelly, and then there's like one like who's the same, like there's one email that says hybrid, and I was like, wait a second, I did not.
All right. Good evening, everyone. On behalf of Beyond Baroque Literary Arts Center, I'd like to welcome you all to Maximum Return, featuring Exene Cervanka, Kim Rosenfield, and Jack Skelley. Please give it up for them. My name is Jimmy Vega. I'm the Assistant Director of Beyond Baroque. I'd like to start by acknowledging Beyond Baroque's presence on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Tonga peoples. We acknowledge the wrong done to these peoples through settler colonialism, genocidal practices, and the violent disposition of their land. As an arts organization, we are committed to uplifting Indigenous communities, their stories, and cultures. For those who don't know, Beyond Baroque is Los Angeles' oldest literary arts center, located here in Venice, California. Founded in 1968, first as an experimental literary magazine before reimagining itself and becoming the literary institution we know it as today. In fact, I think our founder, George Drury Smith, is in the house, so please give it up for George as well. Thank you, George. We are based out of the original Venice City Hall and support writers and help cultivate new writing through our extensive series of performances, writing workshops, and readings. We currently are offering a number of workshops online via Zoom, such as our free weekly Monday night fiction workshop, facilitated by Raquel Baker, and our historic Wednesday night poetry workshop, currently facilitated by James Fujinami Moore. We also have a number of paid in-person workshops, such as Learning the Rules to Break the Rules in Poetry with Xochi Julissa Bermejo, and Unfolding Through Signature Time with Allison Adele Hedge-Koch. Aside from our workshops, we offer several readings throughout the year. In fact, next week we'll be hosting the 5th annual Southern California Poetry Festival. That's going to be 3 days of poetry featuring nearly 50 authors, so please come back for that. And as part of our opening night, we will be renaming this theater as the Wanda Coleman Theater. So yes. And that's about it. I mean, I do want to say a good, big thanks to Jack, Exene, and Kim for being here with us tonight. A big thanks to our staff, Quentin Ring, Ivan Salinas. Yeah, please make some noise for them. Genesis Perez, Nick Foreman, Eric Alberg in the booth. Without them, we wouldn't be here tonight. So I would like to bring up the first author to the stage, Jack Skelley, the author of the novel The Complete Fear of Kathy Acker. Other books by Jack are Interstellar Theme Park, Dennis Wilson and Charlie Manson, and Monsters. Jack's psychedelic surf band Londell has a 2022 album, Twango, and 2 albums on SST Records. Please give a warm welcome to Jack Skelley.
Thank you, Yvonne. Oh, no, that was Jimmy. Sorry. I knew that. Okay, wow. Hey, everybody, thank you for being here. What's happening? This is really special for me right now because not only just being with Kim and Exene tonight together is kind of our paths have circulated amongst each other, starting from olden days in the 80s, really 1979, if you think about it. The fact that George Drury Smith is here tonight is really very special. So like Jimmy said, George founded Beyond Baroque, but I mean, so like everybody kind of owes a lot to George in the literary scene in Los Angeles for creating Beyond Baroque. But it goes beyond that. I mean, George, I was telling this to Kim last night. My first job, well, I graduated from Humboldt State University in 1979. Hey, behind the redwood marijuana curtain, and I had a degree in English, right? Like, what the fuck am I going to do with a degree in? But I moved back to LA because I'm from LA, and I don't remember, George, but I answered an ad or something. I wasn't part of the scene here. I was a very alienated sort of young postgraduate kid. And I answered an ad for the job, plus I took a room in George's building. So George not only gave me my first job, but my first place to live out of college. Do you remember that, George? Yeah, he did. Just say yes. Everything I say is true. But that was not in this building, but in the original Beyond Baroque, which was on Abbot Kinney what's now called Abbot Kinney Street, Abbot Kinney, whatever, Boulevard. Back then it was called West Washington, I think, because Los Angeles cannot have too many Washington Boulevards. There was 3 at that time, but they changed the name to, anyway, I lived there. And the original Beyond Baroque was in like a storefront, and then I lived above that storefront in a very low-ceilinged garret type space, right on the street. And then by that time, they actually had moved the institution to here, to the old Venice City Hall, just 3 blocks away. And there was a liquor store down below right below my window. And then beneath that, some of you have heard this story before, so just ignore it. But right below my window was a payphone. So if you can imagine a liquor store and a payphone and a bedroom, dude, I lost my keys in a fight. Can you come pick me up? Well, I remember one time I walked out of my house or my apartment there, and a woman was just sleeping in my car, like, because I would leave my car unlocked because otherwise back then, they would steal your radio or whatever. Anyway, also living in that building, Exene did. And in fact, Exene, the story, the legend goes, and Exene, correct me, whatever, if I'm wrong, but Exene met Joe at the Beyond Baroque Poetry Workshop originally there. So, and then whatever, John Doe, what did I say? Joe. Oh. John Doe, excuse me. And, okay, and then not only that, I'm sorry I'm getting the names, I don't know what's wrong with me. I'm getting the names wrong tonight, but also one of the first shows I put on here, and George let me do a music series here, in addition to everything else. So I would book jazz and classical and punk rock. And one of the first shows with X, I think it was X, okay, tell me if I'm wrong. X, the Blasters, and Top Jimmy.
Benefit, right?
That was probably a benefit too. And I remember I was used to like setting up the chairs in here. We didn't have this beautiful raked theater seating and all that stuff like that back then. We had some of these folding chairs there. And I was used to like setting up the chairs for the classical music concert. And you came in, Exene, ripped me, get these chairs out of here, and folded them up and put them to the side of the room. Because it was a wild show. It was really great. But we went on and had a lot of great shows here and a lot of great memories, and so, etc. So I'm going to read from this book, which The Complete Fear of Kathy Acker, which also is connected to this place very intimately because I worked upstairs in the New Comp Graphics Center space where Beyond Baroque would publish books, basically. And it was this typesetting machine, and I started writing. One day I just started writing a book on the typesetting machine, these long scrolls of photo paper, and that was the beginning of Fear of Kathy Acker. So finally, The Complete Fear of Kathy Acker was published this year. Okay, so here I'm going to read a little bit of it. And this is what I'm thinking about all day as I deal with the sleazy, scamming businessmen throughout the hot American business day with businessmen who've never heard of Kathy Acker bumping into each other in elevators that zoom through the multi-storied American business offices of Los Angeles and New York and San Francisco while the day goes on, and I try to work up the nerve to call Kathy Acker in New York. But believe me, Kathy Acker and everyone, I know the difference between what a writer writes and what she actually does. But the line between fact and fiction these days is past the point of defining. Everything a fiction writer writes is either completely made up or is factual only in the most universal sense. When I say, I want to fuck the universe, or some such bombastic phrase lifted from Henry Miller, it is a denial of conventional reality. Words are a projection of desire, and grammar is a motive. Take the subjunctive mode. I wish Vince Scully were my grandfather. The illogic of turning a would-be fantasy into the subjunctive verb were is a reaction of emotion upon language. We all know this intuitively. The problem is that years of television, back then we had television and not internet. You get this is old, it was written a long time ago. The logic of turning a would-be fantasy into the we all know this intuitively. The problem is that years of television and categorization of sensory input have denied the visionary foundation of language. But language exists to fuck society's constrictions up the butt. Language is the tool of the visionary, the anarchist, the child, the artist, the saint, the lover, and Bob Flanagan. Who knows Bob Flanagan? Who knew Bob Flanagan? Everything else which sounds like language, but is really words used to corrupt people or chop them into little bite-sized pieces, is not language, but clop. C-L-O-P. Clop is something people swallow to kill themselves. It's a detergent washing life away. It is sets of word images that hold people's minds in one spot for 2.5 seconds until another set of clop words is introduced. It's not language, it's clop. Corporations produce clop in order to kill people. Corporations are using clop to kill people right now. Corporations are killing about 100 babies a night or 1,000 babies a week. They also produce, right now, they also produce a TV show called Entertainment Tonight. One of the largest clop-making corporations is in Washington, D.C. It is called the U.S. government, and it makes great quantities of clop. Millions of people consume clop and are dying from it. Only language can save us from clop. Only a visionary apprehension of reality will repel the vast clop of corporate verbiage. I'll say it again. Language exists to fuck society's constrictions up the butt. Language is the visionary articulation of the imagination, which will never fucking shut up. Poets and writers and people who understand how categorization destroys existence use words to fuck things up rather than nail them down, and they will never shut up because the word is in them and coming out in gushes to the world. Lewis McAdams said, poets will never fucking shut up, right? No matter how much you imprison, torture, suppress, or bore them, they will never shut up. Even here in America, the vast majority of wordsmiths are in the decadent service industries, in advertising and promotion and disinformation. Even where most writers are employed by the mega corporate conglomerates, even here the writers will not fucking shut up. Right? Don't fucking shut up. The more the conglomerates try to shut them up, the louder they'll shout, and the more they'll rant about. But all I can do is get pissed off, and I sigh, and inside I die, and fall down, and pound the ground, and say that life is a witch, and life is a big bitch that pisses all over the turdy grass earth, and gets me nervous, and makes me drink coffee, and I have to go to bed, and I can't sleep, and there are so many things to do, like rearrange my desk, and do the dishes, and wash the toilet, and watch TV, and see reality shrink. We had TV then. See reality shrink on TV to the nightmare of Allen Ginsberg as he runs through the streets of New York, retching and writhing in his horrific peyote button high, gasping, Moloch, Moloch, Moloch. This is from Howl. You read Howl? I'm sure you did. Moloch, Moloch, Moloch. Moloch, as he sees the stone buildings mash and swallow people going to work, munch them up and smash their minds. Day after day, the people die inside and can't see and have to pee and have to think about piss when they think about this, because this is all they think about. And I'm so fucking pissed off, I start to shout. I'm alone in the middle of the night in my house, and I see that Moloch Moloch, who knows what Moloch was? What was Moloch? Biblical. Like the
8 kids, right?
8 tits. like an Antichrist figure, right? Moloch. Anyway, 8 tits. I like that. Moloch on TV talking with Ted Koppel on Nightline to America. And Moloch is more than just Kissinger or Reagan or Mondale or Carter, this was in the 80s, or Ollie North, or Biden, or Trump, or Netanyahu. It's all of them, and it's the mega corporations that made them. And I scheme and mutter, and I scream to myself, I hate the mega corporations. I hate the mega corporations. I will avenge the murder of the imagination. Death to the mega corporations. Death to the mega corporations. Death to the mega corporations. Thank you. I'll read one more little passage from this. For 5 days, I lay in that hospital room, bored to death, reading and watching TV, going without orgasms. I had my appendix out. The only white night nurse among all the Filipino nurses was the one who came in on my last night to take my blood pressure. And she noticed I was playing Eno, Brian Eno, right, on my bedside boombox. I used to carry around this boombox with me. I'm not kidding. Anyway, what's that?
With the TV.
No, it didn't have the TV in it. Oh, but the TV was in the hospital room. Anyway, she noticed I was playing Eno on my bedside boombox and that I was pretending to read some little book while I watched her in her stiff white nurse's uniform, and that the TV was on, and she said, "You little prick, you think you're so totally cool, but you don't know shit. You're just watching TV. TV is the lowest common denominator of mental states. That's how the networks brainwash us, inundate us with the lower mental states. The same themes over and over. They create false categories of thinking and utterly basic concepts." The night nurse is saying that. Then my night nurse lowered her pantyhose and twirled her fingers through her tart salad of sparse blonde cunt hairs. She goes on, "The networks are continually narrowing the range of mental states," she said as she churned her hips, "just as they narrow the physical types of news anchor persons. The final 7 categories of network reality are soap opera," she's saying this, "soap opera tragedy, sitcom embarrassment, the weather, economic recovery, breakdancing, sex, and uncontrollable paranoia. Often combinations of these categories are made to facilitate an unplanned event or to sell a new product or an old product with a different category. But even this is becoming rare as the networks relish reducing the range of viewer response and test the 7 categories. The categories which reach the largest demographic groups are sex and uncontrollable paranoia. These 2 can sell anything, especially when used together. ABC is planning a miniseries sequel to The Day After, with Christy Brinkley and Billy Idol, trapped in a post-nuclear aerobics studio with, civilization, in ruins. Then my night nurse rocked the whole bed with her night nurse orgasm, pulled up her pantyhose and finished checking my blood pressure. She said it was up, and that she'd have to come back later, but later on I was gone. Anyway, that night nurse didn't know what she was talking about, because I am Billy Idol. And that ABC gig is not a miniseries, but a feature-length music video. Get out of my way, because I am Billy Idol. I am the final network category, Every other category reduces to me hanging on the smokestacks and TV towers of the world. I'm bigger than King Kong, and I died on the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center in New York City, and all my boyfriends and girlfriends brought me home and consumed my body. That's right, cannibalized me, consumed me, and scattered my remains across the sky. And now I stand upon the globe, surround it, cradle and suckle the earth with my purplish glow of post-nuclear paranoia. That's how I saved mankind. That's how Billy Idol became God. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. One more time for Jack Skelley, folks. One more time. It's always great having you here with us, Jack. Up next, Kim Rosenfield, who is a poet and psychotherapist. She is the author of several books of poetry, including Good Morning, Midnight, Trauma, Re-Evolution, Lividity, and USO, I'll Be Seeing You. Her latest book, Phantom Captain, won the Fence Books Odeline Prize in 2023. Her work has been included in the anthologies Against Expression, The Grulesque, I'll Drown My Book, and Unexpected Guest, Art, Writing, and Thinking on Hospitality. She is a recipient of a Fund for Poetry grant and is an original member of the international artist collective Task. Rosenfield lives and practices in Brooklyn, New York. A warm Venice welcome to Kim Rosenfield.
That was a steamy reading, Jack. Woo. I want a night nurse. Wow, it's absolutely beyond belief to be here. I was on this stage when I was 15, which is a very long time ago. That's the last time I've been on this stage. It looks a little different, but still very much the same. And also really exciting to be here with Exene and Jack, and I feel kind of reading sandwiched in between two artists who completely influenced my young mind, and for the better, and still do. And although my mind is not young, but real. And this place was a lifeline to me. I didn't know what to do with my writing, with myself, with my thinking. My parents, who are here in the audience, found in not the Village Voice, in some local paper, an ad for a workshop, a Wednesday night workshop, and drove me an hour away. And I was terrified and got out of the car and was clutching my little sheaf of poems and met Jack and Bob Flanagan. Dennis Cooper was there, and I was in incredible hands and was warmly embraced then as I feel now. So thank you, Beyond Baroque. And I'm going to read a little bit of Juvenilia Nostalgia. This was a book that was published then, and it was typeset upstairs, maybe by Jack. And I'm going to read, I think these are the two poems that I might have read that first moment I set foot here. So I was in high school, forgive me, they're very old, 1982. And the cover, that's, was at the old, I believe, Fox Theater. This is Sherry Rose took this cover in 1982. I look the same. Okay. All right, here we go. This is a young high school mind at work. S. Mutant. Because I was fifth in a line of strange succession, I quickly tired of playing unpretentious games with undeserving scouts and cut my throat. Together with a fried egg and a bottle of beer, I could not swallow, and thus became irregular in my eating habits. This was scoffed at by many, understood by few, and the knees beneath my skin began to wrinkle. I was forced to slather cream on. Down the rue I went. I took some French. What with my sagging knees and bleeding throat, I was much the envy of all. Behind peacock fans, bemasked ambitions, they admired through chic and knowing eyes. Aren't we the epitome of grace? They would wisely whisper. I could not thank them for their sage observance. My vocals were in a trash can somewhere behind me. But I would nod and show them the blood on my hands. That's how a circle became rounded through an elite social set of rules and equations, multiplied, measured, solved maybe. And when I returned to my Schloss, I was into Kafka then, still am. Oh my God, this is just, I just keep thinking of the lunchroom in high school. This is what it is. I would apply the cream and douse the lights. And I would think, there go my beautiful bejeweled friends. Their brilliance and keenness of mind is truly rare in these parts. Trendsetters, yes, and many follow them. They watch me, though. Oh, how they scrutinize, and what wonderful advice they give, just by looking me in the eye. Rise, rise, O heavenly throat, perched upon my desk. Quiver, shake, then quietly settle to sleep. There's so much to be said for good friends and a wise pair of eyes. Oh, thank you. My much younger self thanks you. And I'll just read one more here and then I'll move on. Let's see. Some of us. Alarming watchdog sleeps tonight. Upon crescents of fat, the rewards of bark, the jewels of fight now snore and gasp in sexless dreams. Fleas of instinct flit sadly lost, from established comfort to gentle terrain, to noisy risk's soft young death. Okay. Gosh, I hope this is a little much more improved, but maybe not. Maybe it's all downhill after that. So this book just came out. This book came out on Halloween, which was so exciting. It's been a long time in the making, and I've had so much incredible support, and I was shocked to have won this prize, and it's been very meaningful to. It's very meaningful to present it to you. This is called Phantom Captain, which is from a Buckminster Fuller reference. And I couldn't explain to you what it means, but I could try. There's a great deal to know about myself before I can start to see another. The metaphor of a sailboat helps me understand how I took in water in the form of pain even before my first breath. And by the time I finished grade school, my boat sat with altered sails, low in the water, hull already full. I must try to release the water of the past. Every emotion is true. Every psychoanalytic fact accurately represented. When there is no further backward turn, and all political maneuvering has quietly come to an end. In this very identity sits a pleasurable condition void of wishes, set in she, her position, as precious as a build-out of loneliness for two. Hushing up tactics suffer greatly under the burden of themselves when you look at analysis as a kind of Christmas present, or a homeland of emotional life, or a concern with the family constellation or genesis of illness, which makes us all into astronauts. I keep talking to you myself, but I don't answer me so good. My aim in life is to expect others to conform to my particular ideals, even if we all have trouble jumping the waves of hoops popping up. Therefore, I learned a new euphemism for an old obsession, dropping kitties at the pool. It functions like religion for people leading lives for whom these aims need to be able to come true. Keeping busy with regular routines is a coping mechanism for everybody who does not like us clowns, who are actually not just joking. I'm hoping this book is remote from intrigue, as I hate it when philosophers fall back on affinity for the familiar, because the heartbreak becomes wider and sadder then. The best thing now would be for all associations to blow up. Here's my longing to be known and my fear of being known and the uncanny of not knowing and the ineffable experience of the limitless infinite and the unthought known in forms of not knowing and the dialectic interplay between discovery and avoidance and making myself known to others and being in the public eye versus the blank screen and the wish need to feel known or to remain unknown and unconscious knowing and the unknown core and the illusion of knowing and the role of values and cultural norms in shaping knowing and not being known and the mutual desire and fear in the room and the contested zone that demarks the boundaries between me and you, us and them, I and not I, and facts falsely represented as desires and desires falsely represented as facts, and naming and locating inside and outside and myself and others in the collaborative intersubjective processes between subject and biographer, and developmental accomplishments attained through gaining the capacity to recognize and face and bear lonely feelings, and accepting and tolerating pain and frustration and intimacy, and how many narratives interweave to express affects and intentions and goals of each member of the human race. Thank you. This is your absolute last chance to contact a very interesting man who is on the exact same page as you. My changes are rapid enough to defy recognition. There are those who expect me to function as anyone who attempts to be disguised as a normal person. This is an old possession for people like me, who realize how little anyone has learned from lessons constantly being served up by people who wish I had a more positive attitude. The conclusion is this. A relationship ends when a person is reduced to serving as a kind of object. God, I wish I had a wife like you. Everything is now an old story, and much of my confusion is about how day and night split into parts by the motion of the universe. Everyone laughed at me as I tried to understand why it got dark at night and why light returned in the morning. I'm trying to deal with troubling matters as thoroughly feminist moments. Take the innocence of financial planners, whose only connections are, at best, in a manner what might be regarded as impersonal, whose expectations imply that accumulation of wealth is the sole context through which activities that are awarded to utmost significance in our world are judged. The best example of this thinking is the idea metaphors are investments instead of possessions. In conveying social relations and their incumbent responsibility on us, on our investment in weapons, on our wars against drugs, on over 6 million plus people put in prisons right now, all of whom are being rationalized by just about everybody as steps that might be taken so that we can live in a world with an economy that is truly great, that breaks its own neck if anyone with instincts is allowed to try to defend themselves. Americans are terrible readers of anything as old and complex as a 1757 work on how sublime and beautiful changes upset our lives and become traumatic ideologies, getting crowded out by a future like manners maketh the man. We didn't fall for World War wit. Humor of the forbidden went on, and we had to function with creative tensions that produced emotional intensity. My attitude should become more like my way of describing great observations. I need to know from all the whatnot that gets in my way of thinking about what is going on. That's when I'll finally have insight into what's bothering my characters. World War wit is based on forbidden reciprocity that stands above political thinking's shoulders. Peace without victory is lacking in triumphalism. Here, I am thinking of war as a problem to be solved by not joining either side. I break the sword and am caught like a bunch of baby Babylons, meeting Gog and Magog for the first time as I line up for half an apocalypse forever, if we even make it that long. I take a dim view of the last 100 years when parvenu leapfrog kept going in different directions and people scattered forever in a progressive, emotional Nagasaki. I will never fight another war again, as I would just get naked, like when the most powerful earthquakes in my lifetime sent puissant waves of water over our land. Institutions expand collective thinking to match the problems of individuals, all the while expecting to make un-American activities involve eligible women in higher numbers. I'm only betting on a casino of possibilities that this will become nothing different. What I thought I needed, only an angel could provide through terror, disdain, and destroying me. The earth wants to say this in words, or in a Rodin sculpture. People will die not knowing what hit them. I tried to pick some lines from poems that wish you were here. Blurred self-image trump lifestyles by way of others respecting me. I'm expected to continue this mockery of violence promised by the state as the best alternative to anarchy, like melted character snowballs that end up in hell in Paradise Lost. My subtext is now a world turned upside down, like an altar to an unknown god, perfect for a culture like mine that would serve hemlock to Socrates. Like Eve, who did not listen, matters got ponderous beyond what human appreciation understands, even though I now have the right to describe anything that I want to as the muses keep feeding me. Poets don't shut up, as Jack said. They make me curious about how people would react if I changed some punctuation, adjusted pauses between phrases, and didn't make the kind of sense that mere modern pauses might imply. The serpent throws fruit from the tree which Eve bites. Demons fall from heaven, and I win the battle that sets the scene in hell. After that, my head cannot help my brain keep up with everything, and my thinking feels like angels escaping from fetters over a lake of fire. The best idea I can come up with for transporting desire is mixing earth and hell, because everyone more or less finds themselves in Babylon in the end anyway, where the whore of Babylon lap dances the beast and then raises a cup. Instead of having a culture smart enough to evaluate everything, I rush into the cockpit in my snobbish dog outfit, competing in a popularity contest that is equal to my desire to mix earth and hell. Now our beast of Babylon has whirligigs of light on top and can blast a siren. I'm writing in despair along with others who renounced the tradition of putting someone else as top dog in a global electronic situation where social networks have no rules except to limit themselves to desires of ego-bounding leader treacle that signals more and more troubled waters. My own interest is a form of escape from my own anarchy. I'm a lifer at taking low notes of culture. Sometimes the best parts of me float on my raft of metaphysical powers, where I get overtones as bad as an augmented sixth. I'm familiar with what happens to people who are drunk, who are not supposed to slip into any kind of harmony. Bad things happen. In this America, where people are most comfortable inside their homes for most of the year, so much has fallen from its high horse that everybody starts combining their own songs, their own sympathies for the devil. I am as American as suffering, born from an epidemic of people who like to eat sugar for a high and make ineptitude fun, who are not yet social enough to understand pathological hatred is making history the wrong approach. I hardly ever smoke, but man, reading Nietzsche takes me there. Like weird access to establishment death games, which are one way of keeping score. I know I'm fighting when I actually have to stop to count the bodies, as if war is a purification of what seems rotten, when no one any longer has any great hopes in common. I'm a medically fictive person. I want to die at the right time mentally. I'm also a happy person, and happy people don't have big stories. This way, social interactions become a real trick. The poet is ending the relationship because of language. Thank you.
Keep going for Kim Rosenfield, y'all. All right. Exene Cervanka is best known as the co-lead singer and songwriter of the band X. She is also a singer-songwriter in the Knitters. Exene has released numerous solo recordings and toured extensively across the US, Europe, South America, and Canada. Her literary career began in 1976 when she moved from Florida to Venice, California, and began working at Beyond Baroque. She lived in the upstairs apartment above the BB Small Press Library. She met John Doe at the Wednesday night poetry workshop. They began writing songs together and started their band X. Exene has also written 4 poetry books, released many solo word poems, and collaborated and toured with many other poets. Twin Sisters, a live spoken word recording with Wanda Coleman, was released in the mid-'80s. Exene owes a lot to Beyond Baroque and is grateful it still stands and flourishes, and we are also very grateful to you, Exene, and thank you for being here. Please make some noise for Exene Cervanka.
Knock, knock. Oh, hello. Are you a traveling salesman? Are you bringing an assortment of brushes? How long will you be sitting on my sofa? Did you bring an assortment also of blades? Is there going to be a demonstration in my kitchen? Can you show me how these products work in the bathroom? Do you have anything for under the bed? Is the point of all this to make everything clean? Well, that's just fine, for I am very dirty. Okay, so as we mentioned, I am in a band, X. Some of you might know what a sound check is. If you don't, I'll tell you. This is like what? It's like people think you either fly around on a jet or you tour around in a bus, and it's all very glamorous, and maybe you're friends with the Rolling Stones or whoever is new, and you're not, and it's vans, and it's hard work, and it's a lot of travel, and I love it, but it isn't like glamorous at all. So this is called sound check. Torn black heavy velvet curtains, threadbare lighting, enameled wooden floor of old colors forgotten, amp, drums, saxophone, vibes, bass, guitars, electrified black boxes. A magic act about to begin. That's the stage where I now stand centered at the microphone. Bounce back snare, cracking the back wall, a 70s bouncing super ball, electric guitar in a cold empty hall. Melted melody, muddled words, reverb heavy, every note and key, 3 rows of old theater seats bolted down on the gray cement floor, just there waiting to get up and dance. People are already snaking the sidewalk in the cold 3 hours before our sold-out show. Very vaudeville. A man crosses the floor 3 feet below me. Ever so slowly, sweeping last night's mess with a wide brown broom across the cement. He's pushing clear plastic cups, some dirt, crumbs of paper, really nothing much. Into a small pile, back and forth he goes, head down, eyes on the floor, never looking up at us. He doesn't care. He's heard it all before. So when I did work at Beyond Baroque, I used to think I would sneak down into I had the keys to the small press library because I worked in there, and I would go down there and I would take the AM, FM clock radio thing up to my room because I didn't have anything else. And I'd plug it in and I'd lay on the floor because I didn't have any furniture. And I would drink and I would write. And one of the things, KRLA, there was Wolfman Jack and all that, the dedications to Snoopy from whatever. Anyway, so this is a poem kind of about that time and a little after that called Elvis Hour. It's Elvis Hour on KRLA. Elvis is singing strange, overdramatic, scary renditions. He sounds mid-70s Elvis. He sounds like he took some kind of Elvis drug. At some point, Elvis became an Elvis impersonator. He was without beginning, without end, but he had a big middle. He wore big belts. When he was good, he wore black. When he was bad, he wore white. Elvis is in heaven, standing by the barn. He just waved at his mama as she stepped onto the porch. Elvis is in heaven, eating fried chicken with a smile on his face. Elvis is in hell, locked inside a Las Vegas hotel room. He knows he will never see Lisa Marie again. Elvis is in hell, watching his own movies on TV, and he doesn't have a gun. Elvis is a decaying plantation, no longer in the family, a farm repossessed, an international language, a housewife, a misspelled gravestone, an impossible image exploding over and over. When he was good, he wore black. When he was bad, he wore white. He was a mixed-up masterpiece. Elvis is on Elvis Hour. All right, so this one's kind of dark. It's from a book that I've been working on. That's it's a fiction book, and if I ever find all the pages that are strewn everywhere, I will probably try to assemble it. But I like that idea that there's an online. I'm not a big online person, but it's hard for me to get down to Venice because I don't live near here anymore. But an online class, fiction writing, that would be kind of cool to do, I think. So this is The Face That Was All Eyes. A dog, mangy and neglected, with teeth that had never been cleaned, died in the night, frozen to a wooden porch. She was a female, bred 6 times in 3 years, a bearer of bad litters that just didn't sell. She had a rough, short life. They thought she'd be easy money. They'd breed some pups, sell them, make big bucks. Teenagers believe that sort of thing. But there's food and shots and dog stuff in the adult world. And them too, they just weren't ready for that. Caroline never loved her, what is that word? Oh, that dog. Caroline never loved that dog. Never even named her. She just called her names. Caroline's boyfriend buried the bodies. He smashed in the aging puppies' heads that made him no money with his old shovel. He smashed the head of the frozen dead mama dog for no reason at all, really. He dug a patch beneath the snow, threw in the parts, and covered it over with the black and white of snow, dirt, and frozen hate. Caroline breathed her filtered, perfumed smoke against the iced-up kitchen window. She was barely watching him do the bashing and the burying, or the blue shadows of shoveling through the frosted glass. She was just wondering, now that she was free, where she would go next. She's not a good person. And neither is her boyfriend. Okay, so here's one that's Venice, 1977. It's about that. It's not written then, but it's about that. So here I am, I'm the only soul on the boardwalk, standing in the fog, listening in the cafe doorway, leaning in to hear the Doors' Strange Days playing on that jukebox, because I don't have a dime to play it for myself. I swim into the Pacific and windward intersection, cold gusts of angel dust and ghosts cross at the light. It's just all gray everywhere, and I'm out there searching for adventure, and it's a Saturday night, and it's foggy, and I'm sad. So I'm going to go dancing because maybe someone will buy me a drink. Well, then I get thrown out for dancing on the tables and causing troubles. And he follows me out. A sea of mercury, an ocean of lead. It was Easter Sunday. He woke up in my bed. We went wading in the water, and I danced in the sand. It was Easter Sunday, and he dreamt of Vietnam. He knelt down in the ocean and said a prayer. It was Easter Sunday, but he wasn't there. He swam into the Pacific and windward intersection, cold gusts of angel dust, a ghost crossing at the light. What's that? Yeah, I don't know how much time I have or what I'm supposed to be doing. I always doubt myself when I do this. So a long time ago, there was this Gulf War thing, this desert shield, desert sand, I don't know what it was. Yeah, Gulf War. Anyway, so there was this photographer named Kenneth Jareski, and he was a legitimate, CBS, Time magazine kind of guy. And he was in the press pool. That was the first time for a war they had a press pool. In Vietnam, you had these guys that were embedded with the troops. They were just on their own taking pictures. It was pretty insane watching the Vietnam War live on television every night on the news. If they did that again, there'd be less war. So this was the very sanitized version. So if you were in the press, you had to go with your handlers as a group, and you were only allowed to take photographs of what they would let you take photographs of. So this guy, Kenneth Jareski, gets really upset because he's only getting pictures of, and this is a great book. I mean, his photographs are so amazing, and they're in there. They've got him here. They're very static pictures. There's like no war going on because they weren't allowed to take pictures of it, but they would just drive around. They would take a Jeep and they would just go. And they had these Iraqi guys surrender to them because they just wanted to get away. They were wearing street shoes. They kind of had uniforms. They weren't soldiers. And this was this weirdest war, man. So he came back and he said, my photos are being censored. No one will show them. I'm an X-fan and I want you to write the words to this book and I want you to illustrate, I've got these photographs. You write what you think. I go, well, I don't know anything about the Gulf. I mean, I know a little, but I don't know the history. So I did all this research on, Lawrence of Arabia and the history of the Gulf and how those fake, those states were drawn up by, it's just this, what you would expect from life, right? So anyway, I wrote something, and I thought it would be appropriate right now to read. And if I can read my writing, which I was younger then, and I could write smaller and read it. In case of impossibility, so this is about the Middle East, right? What's going on kind of now. In case of impossibility, pray 5 times a day. In case of invisibility, pray for war. If invincible, then, well, pray for more. Ancient gate, ancient door, put all the icons back in their place, unbreak every angel's face, genies, lamps, veils, crosses, silver, pearl, gold, oil, incense, wood, clay, brass, earth, bone, flesh, vessels in the desert, symbols, signs, everyday divine, everyone divine, Neolithic, vulture, stone, ice, before sin, steel, God, monarchy, before rape, before the automobile and Detroit, Israel, prohibition, repeal, before suffrage, slavery, linkage, diplomacy, before this war, before the first war, before the Crusades, before Sunday school, walk the sand, dream the air, face the stars, stare into the ocean. The devil is our split from nature, the masculine invasion of the feminine soul, and a war that is holy is yet to be fought. Well, this is a nice thing, since we're doing the Love of Beyond Baroque thing. This poetry, Love's Poetry book, edited by Bill Moore. I think it came out in '85. And this was a great group of people, and, it lives on. And I think it's great that Wanda Coleman is going to have her name on this room. She was one of the greatest performance poets, besides being a great writer. And I miss her. She was really a force of nature. So I'll read a little bit from this that I did a long time ago, since we're reading stuff we did a long time ago. And let me just pick one here. You start out with a shot glass and you end up with a measuring cup. Thank God for fast forward. I'm not one to dwell on the past. I've always got my eye on the future. Oh, Christ, look out, duck, here it comes. Is it gone? Life always knows what's best for you. You know that, don't you? Life always knows what's best for you. If your dick gets stuck in neutral, well, it's just a brief resting period until a better thing to stick it in comes hopping along. So there I was, hopping down this dark alley. Life always knows what's best for you. Someone's looking for a victim and you are provided. Someone needs money, life will give them you. To fulfill their prayers, a man needs a woman. Incidentally, you fit the bill, but the butcher won't take his check. Isn't life funny? Isn't it handy to hand you over as a handout? Morbid little ditty, sour little kitty. Set aside a little time for pity every day. Don't forget to wish through your tears. Wish for something pretty. Wish upon a tear. Ugly modern tower, the glass will shower down. It will wet the backs of the labor that put it up. Push it into the sky. Fill the sky with buildings. Paint the outsides with glass. Make the pretty buildings sparkle. It's so sunny here. Yes, thank you. You know, it's so funny when you read your old stuff because you see there's a different energy in it. I would never use that dick in a poem now, I don't think. But, you know, you gotta sacrifice for your art. So I don't know how much time I have. I'm gonna read a few more here. Okay, so you know the dash, 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 dot, 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 dash, 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 what that means? Is that how it's spelled? Okay, because I'm not sure if it's dot, 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 dash, 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 dot, dot, dot.
I'm not sure.
Me neither, but you got it right. It is the SOS, but which one is it? Well, you know what? No wonder I haven't been rescued yet. So I'll just send more smoke signals from my cigarette. You know, I keep forgetting to set the clock back 1 year every fall. No wonder it's getting so late. Water, water everywhere and not a drop to drink. Keep up periscope, stay all sea serpenty, otherwise you'll end up between mortal and wounded. Unexploded ordnance, weeds in the ditch. I'm not poisoned enough yet, I must confess. I just need a little bartenderness. Command and control, mine is set on supersize. Roger. The disorganized sterilization of the facts, serialized confusion, hideous disturbance along the travails of mind loss. Can't get your face out of my Venus flytrap, the blood-red depths of everything Chicken Little ever said, invisible footprints across the bed. Is there a doctor in the house? Miracle cures, no curses, no cures, autobiographical hen tracks in my driveway. You know me, I'll get in the car with anybody. Ezekiel something or other. I need a bad old Southern boy. I just need a little bartenderness. I don't need a blow-up man, all beige and cold and folded up. I don't have the breath for that. I haven't got the breath for that. Now, is it dot, 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 dash, 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 or dot, dot, dot? Being happy is all about suspension of disbelief, forgetting the tomorrow of countdown, the urban spoils, personas non grata, climbing up your backbone like if it was a ladder to the top. Is there room for one more illusion on the bed of nails, where Cupid is snoring after a long day at the effigy factory? Or is it just more morass, aromatherapy in a toxic wasteland, extenuating circumstances in an unsolid state, new scars from old wars, ticker tape parade of generals just back from the gender wars, which incidentally they've been fighting in my backyard, situation normal, all fucked up? I've got a case of internal bleeding. Come on over. I'm making whiskey for dinner. Spin the bottle, spin the bed, crazy in love or crazy instead. Are the Sandman and the Tooth Fairy married? Because they should be. All right. What else have I got in here? Like we were talking earlier, and Kim and I were talking how, like, what if you forget a page? You know, you're up here, it's like, it's punchlines. Where are the punchlines? They're all gone. I like to be funny. Where's my punchlines? Okay, so, yeah, I'll just read one more. You guys probably have Saturday night stuff to do, right? This is like your early Saturday night activity. Going to go out and see some bands in LA or something like that. Go up to, like, downtown LA. All right, so I'm trying to think if there's, yeah, I think this is it. This is going to be it for me. So I do have some books for sale, and we do all thank you very much for coming here, and that Beyond Baroque is still here is fantastic. And every time I come here, I'm super delighted of all the improvements and so many more people working here now, and they're all so good at it. And, you know, it is good to contribute. This was free tonight, but, you know, you can always support Beyond Baroque also, and that's important to do because, you know, the money comes and goes. It's like the largesse of what, you know, the government, you know, grants, you know, you don't know where the money's going to come from. All right. So I want to go down slow until there ain't no more low to go. I want to sit down easy until there ain't no more pieces to puzzle me. But roundabout now, I read the chemtrails like skywriting overhead. Now, how can it be that we're always at the bottom of that we're always at the bottom of the pyramid scheme, but yet we continue to look up? We're down here where the volcanoes rumble and the buildings tumble and the levees crumble. And I'm just wondering what is holding this whole thing together anymore. You know, I mean, I know there's something wrong with the weather. There's also something wrong with forever. Because the sun is going crazy, baby. It's going micronova. It's going to blast us as the earth turns slightly faster and faster and faster and faster and faster, and that magnetic North Pole keeps wandering so far away from Santa Claus that it's in the deep south of Siberia now. The stars too faint to fall for wishes as the moon rushes by in a hurry to get high. You know, I just really barely recognize the sky. I just want to go down slow. I just want to lay low until there ain't no more low to go. I just want to go down easy until there ain't no more pieces left to puzzle me. But oh no, oh brother, what will they think of next? What dreamed up nightmare? What marketable malady? What manufactured, highly sought after tragedy? What miracle cure that causes death will they think up next? So there I am, standing in line at the redemption machine. But I think it's out of order. I always say that what I need is an ATF machine. Because I already have money. What I need is alcohol, tobacco, and firearms. But, you know, it is all the machines that are causing all the problems. Lunacy contraptions, dispensing catnip, stacked triple deep, nipple high in preconditions, leaving us dangling on high wires as they've taken away all the wooden ladders for our safety. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, flunking students running around with their sockets pulled out and their buttons all sprained, eating garbage in the cafeteria of thieving misery. No, we're just live wires dangling, connected to thin air. And you know it gets thinner as the air gets thicker. If you only knew what he put in your drink. Snake oil to lubricate your robot joints. You know, you're just a garden variety robot now. You're just obeying your marching orders and you've already been drafted. What will they think of next? I know. Free donuts for everybody. Well, all right, that's what I got. Thanks a lot.
One more time for Exene Cervanka, folks, and for Jack Skelley and for Kim Rosenfield. Thanks for being here. Thanks for hanging out with us on an early Saturday evening. Be well. Thank you.